Cool. Hopefully I can still see there's a few of us joining, but what I will do, I will get into some housekeeping things. If you can't hear me right now, this probably isn't the most helpful instruction, but you can switch your sound on by hovering over the screen. So if you're not seeing anything or not hearing anything, please hover your mouse over the screen to switch that sound on. Your audio and video are disabled, so I can't see you, I can't hear you, but I can see what you're typing in the audience chat, so you can reach out there. You can also turn off other apps to improve your viewing experience. So if it's a little bit slow, shut your other browsers, and that should improve the experience. You can also post questions using the Q&A function at any time. So you should be able to access that question function. It's separate from the audience chat. Please feel welcome to pop some things in there. I will be saving some time for questions at the very end. Lastly, not on here, the session is being recorded, so we'll make sure that recording gets out to you as well. So today we're covering consolidated reporting, and we're going to be producing a professional consolidated report all before lunch. I know there's people dialing in from all different time zones, so it might not be your lunchtime, but within the time frame that you could do before lunch in your workday. As a quick introduction of myself, I'm Jess. I am very lucky to have been at Fathom since March of 2020, so almost 5 years. And I'm the account management lead for the UK, so it's very nice to connect with a lot of you. And joining me today on this session is Tom Bilton. He's the head of advisory and business channels for APAC, so you're really getting some expert knowledge today. He'll be covering off the main content for the session. Quickly, I'll run through our agenda. So we'll start with what's the problem. So what are some of the sticking points we see with consolidations? Then we'll run through some of the benefits of fast consolidated reporting. We'll also cover off how Fathom can help with that. And then Tom will bring us through a Fathom reporting showcase within the product itself. As mentioned, I'll bring you through a live Q&A, and I'll also chat through some next steps as well. So here are some of the common problems, and if you're already consolidating, these probably aren't going to be a surprise to you, but I'd love for you to tell me in the chat which one of these is kind of resonating the most, so 1 through 5. And if you are brand new to consolidations, these are some of the things to watch out for. So number 1 is that consolidations can often be error prone, and we're all human, we all make mistakes, but if we can minimize that through a solution like Fathom, it's quite a handy thing to have. Number 2, there's often multiple tabs and sources to check. So in the UK, for example, you might be consolidating accounts across Sage and Xero and QuickBooks. Trying to navigate all 3 of those for one report can be quite a pain. Consolidations can also be labor intensive and time consuming. So that might require hours of work for each report. I don't know anyone who has enough time in the day. If you can get off the clock by 5 or have your weekends back, I think that's definitely a positive thing. Consolidations are often static as well, especially if you're using Excel. So as results change, obviously you need to recalculate those totals. You might need to make those updates, which again adds to the labor intensiveness of a consolidated report. And then finally, spreadsheets just aren't the best communication tool. So if you're trying to provide that value to the end user, to the reader, if they can't understand, or maybe it's just not engaging, you're not going to be providing as much value as you could be from your work. So what is the solution? Fathom does quite a few things. We help to eliminate errors with direct integrations to your source financials. So again, we integrate directly with Xero, QuickBooks, Sage, MyOb. There's a couple others depending on where you're coming from. We also give you one clear view of group results as well. So all in one place, all in one platform. And this is a fun fact, Fathom customers save an average of 14 hours compared to alternative consolidation methods. So again, hopefully that will get you out of the door by 5 p.m. We also have a dynamic automatic update as company and group results change. So your data will come from your cloud-based source accounting systems into Fathom on a daily refresh. So again, you have that peace of mind that it's up to date. Finally, reports are customizable, offering clear visualizations that are easy to schedule and share. So again, we'll cover that off in a bit more detail during this session. What are some of the other benefits of faster consolidations? One of them is the agility in business planning. So reports act as the script for meaningful discussions with clients and stakeholders. It'll also help you improve your understanding across the group. So you can use visualizations and commentary to communicate financial performance in a better way that is just enhanced from what you get from a spreadsheet. It'll help you with quick and confident decision making. So it'll provide insights in a timely manner that will also bring clarity and confidence to the decision making process. And finally, you'll have faster responses to stakeholders. So monthly reports create consistent touch points and demonstrate your value month after month. I just want to pause there and quickly introduce Fathom, because I can see there's quite a few of us who are joining who aren't current clients. So if you're not quite sure what Fathom does in its entirety, I'll very quickly bring you through that. So Fathom is an all-in-one business performance reporting, analysis, and cash flow forecasting tool. Fathom combines actionable financial insights, customizable reports, and business planning into one smart solution. So how it works, Fathom seamlessly integrates with your leading accounting platforms, and I know I've already mentioned a few, and it transforms your financial data into insightful dashboards and reports. So it's easy to get started, stay connected, and get more out of your data. So if you are interested in some of those other features of Fathom, get in touch with your main point of contact or get in touch with our support team. I'll have that email on the screen at the end. But today, again, we're primarily focusing on our consolidated reports. So let's actually explore the product. We'll be bringing you through how to add your group entities the smart way, how to prepare your consolidated group, how to create micro forecasts and scenarios, and then how to build a professional report. So from here on, I'll pass over to Tom. Thanks, guys.
Hi, my name's Tom Bilton, and today we're going to run through how to quickly build a consolidated report in Fathom. So whether you're currently using Excel to build consolidations and have an existing model, or you're trying to set up a model in Excel for the first time, there's a much better and faster and more informative way you can create a report, and that's through Fathom. So we're going to take a look at a sample report as a starting point from the Fathom website, and then we'll build in various aspects such as financial and non-financial KPIs. We'll cover off dealing with multi-currency and also intercompany eliminations, and then setting up some future business events with something called micro forecasting Fathom and some scenario plans to help really build out those compelling and informative areas of your report. So on the Fathom website, if you go to the Resource Center and scroll down, you'll be able to find Fathom sample reports. If we have a look at all of them, we can scroll down and see there's a range, and one of them is called Jartan. That's our consolidated report, multi-entity group report. And we have a background image and logo set up. There's a basis of preparation. We've got some strategic notes from management and some action agenda items, as well as some key performance indicators. On the next page, there's some more detailed KPI analysis across revenue, gross profit, net profit after tax percentage, and equity change, and also a couple of non-financial performance indicators that have been included: percentage return, customers, and also customer satisfaction. And then underneath, we've got a revenue breakdown and cost of sales breakdown by each of the companies. The next page, we've got a set of KPI results through a KPI dashboard. There's also a break-even analysis tool, graph, profitability charts covering off profitability and EBIT, and revenue versus cost of sales and expenses. And so we'll bring in some charts as well. And then there's the forecast roadmap with those innovative micro forecasts built onto the business roadmap in terms of hiring events such as hiring a global sales manager. And then we've got a revenue scenario set and modeled out, as well as the financials by company at the bottom of the report. You can see that we are now on the main dashboard, and we've got 3 of the underlying entities for the consolidated group already imported into Fathom through an Excel data upload. So The next step is to just show you how to import an underlying entity for a consolidated group. You can just go to Add Company, and then you have a number of options. So if your source accounting data is held in a source accounting system such as MYOB, Xero, QuickBooks Online, or Sage, you can connect automatically to that data source and bring in your P&L and balance sheet information directly through the direct integration. Or if you're using another system, or such as an ERP system, you can bring in the data through Excel. And we provide a very simple example import Excel template file for you to utilize. Now, we've actually already set up this Excel import template. So we'll just go to choose a file to upload. And that's going to bring in our P&L and balance sheet data directly into Fathom. And as soon as you bring that information in, it's going to appear in the main dashboard. Now, before you actually set up your consolidated group by adding those 4 individual underlying entities together, the very first thing you're going to want to do in each of those underlying entities is go to the Setup Settings cogwheel and work through the simple 6-step setup process. So in the Update Data section, you can see the financial information that you've brought in from your source accounting system or via Excel. Also, you can see your budget level data. You can also, in your underlying entities, bring in non-financial information for non-financial key performance indicator data, and we'll touch on that in step 4. And it's also worth just pointing out that you can make financial adjustments in Fathom that are independent of your source accounting systems. So once you're happy with the data that you brought into Fathom, you'll want to go to the company profile. And a couple of things you want to do is you might want to run some reports in your underlying entity. So you might bring in the logos that you want to create in your reports. You'll also want to set your underlying currencies. So this was Jartan London, so that's going to be in British pounds. And just make sure that you always save changes in each section so that they're saved. The chart of accounts is a really important section, and this brings in your underlying general ledger and chart of account line items. You can see that you can actually start maneuvering these about and reposition and reorient how you want to see different ledger or chart of account line items within your reports or within the analysis tools. And one of the most important aspects of this chart of accounts area is the ability to create headings and subheadings within your chart of accounts, which actually allows you more functionality within Fathom. So you can start creating more or less detailed reports. So reporting at the headline folder level, or at the sub level, or at the detailed level, showing all chart of account line items. And it also allows you to start grouping chart of account line items in folders, so that if, for example, underlying entities have different charts of accounts, you can start tidying them up and then consolidate easily. So it really acts as two ways of dealing with your chart of accounts, whether you're looking at your underlying entities or your consolidated group. We'll come back and touch on balance sheet and intercompany eliminations when we deal with the consolidated group. But once you're ready to move on, you can just save your changes and then move into the next section. So the KPIs section relates to key performance indicators and management ratios that you want to measure, monitor, and manage so that you can track the metrics that matter to your business. Now, Fathom provides you with over 50 default financial key performance indicators and management ratios. You can also set up KPIs in Fathom, so outside of the default KPIs. And so you just click on the Create KPI option, and this gives you a number of KPIs that you can set up. So non-financial KPIs, account watch KPIs that allow you to focus on specific general ledger or chart of account items such as entertaining expenses or motor vehicle expenses, and have those as a specific KPI, and also allows you the functionality to create formula KPIs. When you want to create a KPI, just click on select and then you give it a name. So maybe it's percentage of customer returns. You can give it a description. You can select the unit of measurement. So here we're going to have percentage. The aggregation type is really important when you want to think about running or creating quarterly or annual reports. Now, data is tracked on a monthly basis in Fathom. So when you get to the quarter end or year end, you're going to want to assess whether you want to add the monthly information together to give a summative number for the quarterly or annual report. Maybe you want to have an average of the quarter or year's results, or maybe you just want to pick the balance the last month of the quarter or the last month of the year to see the results. That might be relevant for tracking a non-financial KPI like number of employees. So we're going to track the average percentage of customer returns over a quarter or over the year. And we're going to want a lower result being favorable. You can give it a category, so you can create your own categories. This is going into profitability. One of the most important things to remember is that if you want to be able to use the KPI in another entity that you've got in Fathom, another, say, group entity, or utilize the KPIs at the consolidated group level, you have to add the KPI to the KPI library. Now you'll see here that this is saying this name is already in use by another KPI. That's because we've already saved it before, so we'll just cancel out of that. And so if we want to go and find an existing KPI that has already been saved to the KPI library, just go into KPI library and select. And if we go to customer service, we're going to find, in sales, we're going to find percentage of customer returns. We'll select that KPI and that will appear in our main dashboard. We'll give it a critical importance. And maybe we want to also track from the Jartan report, customer satisfaction. Sorry, it's in customer service, customer satisfaction. There we go. And that will appear as well. One final thing to mention is that when you have set up an underlying entity or an organization in Fathom, you have the ability, when you set up another entity, to copy settings from that company or another company just by clicking on the copy settings for another company option. And so, for example, maybe we set up Jartan San Diego before, and we want to copy the setup for the KPIs section from that organization. We can do that and save ourselves a little bit of time. Really helpful if you're consolidating 10, 50, 100 organizations. Once you've set up your KPIs, you're probably going to want to set up some targets. And so you can either use the same targets each month or use variable targets across months and years, and the drop-down menu allows you to select the year that you're focusing on. If you brought in a budget, created a budget in Fathom, you can, for certain financial KPIs, actually use the budget level data, but we haven't brought any data in, so we're just going to use a little green arrow, and you can choose to apply a fixed amount each month, adjust by a percentage, or adjust by an amount each month. Maybe for this example, we just want to fix it at £120,000 a month. We'll press apply, and that data has now been filled. We've saved the changes. And once you've finished making your changes, you can move on to the alert section and final section of setting up. The alert section allows you to set thresholds for specific financial KPIs so that if your actual data drops below that threshold, you'll get a warning notification in your analysis tools, in your KPI dashboard, and also in the notifications section of Fathom and in your reports. Now we've worked through the 6-step setup process, we'd go and repeat that for our other underlying entities if we need to. But then once we've done that, we can start setting up our consolidated group entity. So here we are back on the main dashboard of Fathom, and you can see we've got each of the 4 underlying entities for the consolidation now. And we want to now create our consolidated group. So we go up to the add button and we're going to go click on consolidated group. We're going to give the consolidation a name. And we're going to select the underlying entities that we want to consolidate. And you can see we've got the date range for the entire consolidated group. We've got the first month of the financial year set, which you can change if you need to. And we've also got the presentation currency that is US dollars. And now we're going to move into our consolidation dashboard. And if you need to reorient to this, you can find your consolidation on the main dashboard. You can see we now have an additional organization with an orange-red circle in the middle with the number of entities included. You just click on that and you'll come back to your dashboard for your consolidated entities. And this is where you can access the different areas of the consolidation, from the forecast, the reports, and the analysis tools and KPI tools as well. But first of all, we're just going to hop into the settings area and run through the simple 6-step setup process for a consolidation, which really mirrors the setup process for the underlying entities. You'll see there's a few things that are different. Here we've got the underlying entities of the group, so you can manage the group from this page by adding more entities if you end up having more entities in the group or you need to take any out. You can also see that this page sets out the details of the financial data that you've imported, so the date ranges. If you've imported any budgets or created any budgets, that information is summarized here, as well as the non-financials information, and also when the data was last updated. And you can set for the data for the underlying entities to automatically update to reflect the latest underlying company results. You'll probably also want to just set your retained earnings debit and credit in case you need to make any adjustments in your consolidation at any point. So let's just quickly do that. And you can then move on to step 2, which is your group profile. And this involves exactly with the underlying entities, including things like the logo. And also checking the presentation currency. Now, in a group consolidation, you'll also get the option to have a look and edit any exchange rates if you want. So Fathom utilizes the website openexchangerates.org to bring in the underlying exchange rates for the underlying entities and then translate them at the exchange rate per the website. Now, the profit and loss exchange rates are calculated using the average of the exchange rates for each day over a specific month, and the balance sheet takes the month-end exchange rate or period-end exchange rate to calculate the exchange rate for the underlying entities. Fathom uses the average exchange rate for the month in question to calculate the profit and loss for a specific month, but then adds together each month's average when dealing with quarterly and annual reports, and then again uses the month-end, quarter-end or year-end foreign exchange rate when calculating the balance sheet figures for the management reporting for each underlying entity. And it gets a little bit more complicated and detailed when you're calculating the equity part of the balance sheet in multi-currency consolidations at quarter ends and year ends. So do talk to your Fathom account manager if you want to walk through the detail on this, as it's outside the scope of this webinar. If you do want to not use openexchangerates.org, you've got two options really. You can either manually create your own exchange rate. So we could just put in 0.65 here. And you'll see that a little blue icon appears just in the same cell, and that will tell you continue to tell you what the default rate is from openexchangerates.org. You can always just go to the little button on the left-hand side to reset the numbers. So you can reset for all the periods, or reset rates for a custom period. So you can reset rates there. You'll notice there's a little 3-dot icon next to each exchange rate, and that allows you to fix the rate for a specific period or for all periods. You can also use the option of managing your own exchange rates through an Excel download. So you can just download an Excel template, manage your exchange rates, particularly helpful if you've got lots of underlying entities that you want to manage different exchange rates for, and then upload them via the same Excel template. Once you're happy with your exchange rates, you can move into the chart of accounts, KPIs and targets and alerts sections. All very similar to the underlying entities. And you'll remember we have this copy settings from another company option. So you may well want to copy those settings for things like chart of accounts, layout, folders and headings, KPIs, formatting, and also your targets and alerts set up from your underlying entity. So let's say we wanted to copy that from our Jartan San Diego entity. Once that's done, you still have the option to continuing editing your chart of accounts and KPIs, targets and alerts if you so wish. So for example, we can just drag our online sales into the online sales folder and our shopfront sales into the shopfront sales heading. Don't forget to save any changes that you're working on. An additional part to the chart of accounts area for consolidated group entities is intercompany eliminations. So Fathom allows you to eliminate intercompany balances between entities. So you might have made sales from one company to another company and have a balance within the balance sheet or the P&L for those organizations that need eliminating at the consolidated group level. And so Fathom allows you to complete intercompany eliminations in full in the chart of accounts section. So you can see here we've got intercompany loan, and we might want to eliminate the intercompany loan between, say, the New York branches or offices and the San Diego offices. So we'll just select eliminate, and both of those balances will be eliminated. Now, you also have the option to carry out partial eliminations in Fathom. We provide you with a partial eliminations import template, which can so partial eliminations can be set up in an Excel spreadsheet and then imported as an additional entity into Fathom. And you can request a copy of that template from the support function. So if you ever need any help from Fathom's amazing award-winning technical support team, customer support team, you just click on the little icon at the bottom right-hand side of the page and you can ask a question, and you should get a response in around 10 minutes, often a lot quicker than that. So a great additional service to leverage when you're using Fathom. It's also worth noting that at the bottom of the chart of accounts and also in the Excel report section, you have a download preview template report. So let's take a quick look at that and see the information that you get. In the download Excel preview report, you can see that Fathom breaks down each of the individual entities that you've actually created and breaks those down from a profit and loss and also a balance sheet perspective. And you can see here at the top of the page, Fathom sets out the currency conversion from Great British Pounds to US dollars for the Demo Jarton London account, and also Australian dollars to US dollars for the Jarton Sydney account. And you can see by hovering over the specific cells within the Excel spreadsheet that you can see the translated currency value during the period. And you can also see here we have an eliminations column. So any eliminations that we've actually performed are summarized within the spreadsheet as well. And you can see down here we have our elimination carried out. Returning to the settings, now you've performed your intercompany eliminations. You also have the option to amend your KPIs, your targets, and your alerts. We've already actually copied the details from one of the underlying entities. So let's just say for the purposes of this consolidation, no more edits are needed. So now we can move into dealing with some additional elements of our consolidated group report, including our forecast. Fathom allows you to get started with a forecast or budget in 3 ways. So you can either go through a quick custom forecast setup that takes about 2 or 3 minutes. You can link to an existing budget that you might have created, or create budgets in the underlying entities and roll them up into a consolidated group budget in Fathom. Or you can create a consolidated budget or forecast at the consolidated level using the quick start option or the custom forecast option if you want to step through that way. We'll start with the quick start forecast. The quick start forecast in Fathom allows you to take the historic figures that you can see in gray on the page and then uses something called a value rule. So Fathom has a number of what we call value rules to create or model out the financial numbers moving into the future for up to 5 years. And you can see when we click on the value rules here, if we wanted to edit the existing rule, we have a number of value rules. So we've got a smart prediction value rule, which is a statistical methodology called linear regression that maps out future values or models future numbers based on historic figures, taking the highs and lows of of historic figures, and then plotting a sort of midpoint line through those. So you can use the smart prediction model, linking to a previous period, using constant growing or declining values, using formulas or drivers, or linking to budget. And you'll see here that we've just linked to the previous period. So we can take, say, last year's numbers and give them an increase or a decrease. But let's say we just utilize, for the purposes of this forecast, last year's numbers with no increase or decrease. You'll see the numbers spin in real time. And what you have on your forecast is a breakdown of specific financial performance metrics. So here we've pinned cash on hand, changes in cash and equivalents, and operating profit margin. But you can always go and add additional metrics that you want to keep an eye on. That might be things like operating profit margin, gross profit margin, etc. Now, for the purposes of today's webinar, we're not going to get into the mechanics of actually building the forecast, but we're going to touch on three key areas: micro forecasts for forecasting or modeling out some specific business events; the business roadmap that allows you to see all of your micro forecasts on one specific page, so you can change and optimize the timing of when those specific business events you're plotting into the future happen. And also we'll set up a scenario to model out our revenue into a best case and worst case scenario, and include that on our report. So let's first of all start with micro forecasts. Fathom allows us to create something that we call micro forecasts, which are future mini partition business events that sit within the main forecast in Fathom. You can see here that we've already created some forecasts, a Cyber Monday campaign. We're going to add that to our marketing plans, as well as some hiring campaigns around hiring a global sales manager for our furniture retail business. And if we want to create another micro forecast, maybe this is for local floor managers at each of our locations, we can very quickly do that by creating a micro forecast through the micro forecast wizard. So let's hire an employee. Let's say that their US dollar wages are, let's say, $35,000 per annum, and there's going to be 4 of them for 4 locations. So we're going to go with $140,000 in spend, and let's put that to the salaries and wages account. And now we have an instant partition micro forecast that creates the salaries and wages, the effect on the income tax expense, cash on hand, income tax liability, and the impacts on our retained and current year earnings. And we can continue to model out this in more detail by making adjustments to various chart of account line items and setting various tax settings. We might want to create some revenue for a specific location, maybe shopfront sales at a specific location, maybe in London, and the other locations, just by adding in our specific accounts one by one. Once we've done that, we can actually also enter in specific revenue amounts relating to those shopfront managers. So maybe we decide that they're going to start by adding and contributing about $1,000 of revenue, and that's going to increase at about 10% a month. And we can slowly work through building out our micro forecast partitioned account for each floor manager that affects the global group. Once that's been done, you can see that those micro forecasts are partitioned within the main website. And here we've got our global sales manager and our floor managers coming online. You'll also be able to see those micro forecasts set up in what we call the business roadmap, which is a timeline that plots all the micro forecasts that we've created. So our Cyber Monday campaign, our global fresh look campaign and print campaigns, as well as our hiring managers events within a timeline that we can actually change. So maybe we're going to bring forward our hiring of our sales managers, and maybe we actually can bring our cyber campaign forward as well. You can set this to look at the impact on each of your performance metrics And maybe if we bring it forward a month, we're actually going to spike that revenue by a month as well by starting the campaign early. Now we've set up our micro forecast, we might also want to set up some scenarios. So maybe we want to set up a best case scenario plan and a worst case scenario plan. You can quickly take the model of your original forecast and then add a configuration and turn on or turn off specific micro forecasts that relate to your new best case or worst case scenario. And maybe we're going to be able to increase our revenues by 5%. Maybe we'll decrease our cost of sales by 4%, 3%, and maybe we'll actually do a bit of tightening of our overheads and expenditure and manage to decrease those by 5%. And so that's going to model out, and let's keep all our campaigns going, a new scenario. And so now we have a new business roadmap, or we have a new set of micro forecasts that we can turn on or turn off, and those all relate to our best case scenario that you can see is pinned in the top corner of right-hand corner of the screen. And so we can easily toggle between our best case scenario and our original forecast and start modeling and changing different aspects of that. But for now, we're going to go back to our report. We're going to go back to our report section and start creating our report. So we're going to create a draft report in Fathom from the report center using one of the 14 templates that already exist in Fathom. So it's going to speed us up getting started, as we're going to have some sections already in there. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the options to edit the online version of Fathom, which you can easily email to clients and customers and have them access via a link from their email. And also we have the print version. Now we're going to edit the print version, which is the one that we looked at previously. You remember there's a background image, so let's ensure that the background image covers the entire page. And we're going to just take off the data publishing, and we're going to add in the background Jartan logo as well. You can make similar edits to the online version as well, or put in different logos and images if you wish. Now we've done that, we're going to have a look at the different sections that are already in the report. We're going to delete some of the ones we don't need, such as the growth charts, the cash flow analysis, and the group financial trends. And we're going to add in some additional sections that we need. So we're going to have notes from management. We're going to also have our forecast roadmap, and we're also going to have our revenue scenario. And let's just bring down the financials by company because they're at the bottom, and let's shift up the notes from management, and let's just change the name of the consolidated executive summary to KPI analysis, and let's just change this one to KPI results. So on our main first notes from management page, these KPIs were actually included, so let's drag those up to here. And then let's also add in our 2 columns of text, which we actually want to drag up as well above our KPI notes. So let's just take that and drag those up above. So they're at the top of the page. There we go. Let's just untick these. Let's add in some text that we want, and we've got that already written. So let's put that on the page. It's also worth noting that you can create numeric placeholders in Fathom that refer to source accounting software or source accounting software numerical data, or even non-financial KPI data. So let's put in total revenue for the month. Now those placeholders will roll forward to the next month, and so you don't have to keep updating those. Let's just finish off with our third note or paragraph, and let's also update our action items as well. There we go. So now we've got our first page. On our second page, there's a few things that we can do. So let's just get rid of these extraneous sections that we're not going to need. And let's change the colors on the spark lines. I think we probably had a dark blue and a light blue. And then we want to duplicate these to create the actual KPIs that we want. So we have gross profit, and bring that up here. It's just this month, save changes. And then when we want to create additional, we had 6 of these in total, so we can very quickly duplicate these. And let's say we wanted to create our non-financial KPIs, percentage of customer returns. Again, we just follow the exact same process. Save those. Now, there are also some breakdown charts that we had. So let's get rid of the ones that we didn't need. So that's these 2. And you'll remember that we have revenue and cost of sales. So let's drag those up just below the financial snippets. Let's again change the color very quickly, probably a slightly lighter blue. And let's duplicate. Here we had one of our charts referring to the accounts, and then our cost of sales breakdown was also a different color. So let's bring that to a lighter shade. And again, let's duplicate and include the accounts. So now we've got each section set up there. Breakdown charts we don't need, so let's get rid of that. And let's bring in let's move this up and extend it across. And we're looking at a number of metrics that just need changing. So we had gross profit, we had retained income, and we had operating profit. And we were looking at all of those over all time. So we can save the changes and edit those as we need to. In terms of the color coding, let's just remove the pie chart and let's change our revenue to compare to cost of sales. And let's do that over 2 bar charts. And let's change it to just 5 months. There we go. You can duplicate that and also create the fixed versus variable. Fixed expenses. And variable. Again, that was 2 bar charts. Again, we can come back and change the colors so they reflect what we want. Forecast roadmap, let's add that in. Just go to the charts, go to the forecasting section, select the roadmap that you want, double click. Let's do a previous 3 months, future 12. And let's highlight the current period as well, just so we know where we are. And let's change this page to landscape so we get a bit of a fuller picture. And let's also add in a forecasting table to see the start of the micro forecast that we've added in as well. In terms of the revenue scenarios, let's add in a revenue scenario. Let's just drag that down because we're in the wrong section. Let's extend this out to the page and let's change the positioning to future 12, last 12 months, and then we can also expand the revenue forecast as well to bring in some additional, let's go custom, next 12 months. And we can see the Cyber Monday impact coming on board here on the spike. So now we've got our forecast set up, our report set up with the forecast. We can make some final edits just in terms of things like color coding and setup, and then we can either publish immediately and send to relevant stakeholders, either internally or externally, internally for a review or externally, and then get ready for downloading and sending as well. Let's have a look at the downloaded report after we finish doing those edits. So here we are. You can see we've got our Jartan consolidated group analysis report. Very similar cover page to the original. We've got our basis of preparation, our notes from management. We've got our KPI analysis and our breakdowns, and then our KPI results. We've got a breakdown analysis, our revenue charts, some additional revenue charts versus cost of sales and fixed versus variable. Need to still change that header again. And then our forecast roadmap and our revenue scenario and financials by company. So if you do need any assistance recreating any of these report elements or any additional report elements, do get in touch with our amazing technical support team that you can access via the little black button at the bottom right of the screen. You also have the option to get in touch with your account manager at Fathom. They're available in the US, the UK, and also Australia. So yeah, please, wherever you are in the world, do get in touch and we'll be there to help you and assist you on your journey with Fathom.
All right. Hopefully that was useful for everyone. And yeah, thanks again for submitting all of your questions. We will have a bit of time to answer them, but there's quite a few. So I'll try to get through as many as I can. If I don't, please, we'll try to answer after, but please reach out to your account manager or support. Again, the email's just on the screen and my colleague Darren's popped it into the chat as well. So let me just start from the top here. So I have a question regarding the non-financial KPIs and whether those map in from Excel or Google Sheets, or do they have to be manually added? I'm happy to say we actually have all three options available to you. So super handy if you are someone who just loves Excel, you can do a bulk import that way. If you want like a cloud-based solution, I'd highly recommend to use Google Sheets. The nice thing is if maybe you're not the owner of that data, you can share the Google Sheets that has basically the live connection into Fathom. You can have someone else update it, and that will, again, it'll automatically be pulled into Fathom, whether or not that Google Sheets updater has Fathom access. Lastly, you can do direct entry into Fathom for your non-financial KPI results. So completely up to you in terms of what's going to be quickest and the best method for you. But really good question. Thank you for that. I have a couple in here on whether the recording of the webinar will be provided. I'm happy to say yes. If you're registered, whether or not you've attended the whole thing, you will definitely get the recording afterwards. So don't feel bad if you can't remember everything. I know it's a lot of detail, or if your team member can't make it, you can share that one with them as well. So yeah, I think that will be shared out within maybe a day or two. So just bear with us while we get that out to you. Okay, I have another question here. Does this sync with QB Desktop? Yes, it does. So you can integrate with QuickBooks Desktop. Also using Right Networks. So we don't have a direct integration with Right Networks, but if you do have like specific information you're wanting to pull into Fathom from that system, you should be able to do that with that non-financial KPI import as well. The next one here from Laura, it would be super if when download P&L balance sheet and cash flow in Excel, that the formula for cash flow shows how or where it's drawing from. That's something that banks and PE investors require. That's a really good suggestion. What I will say, we'll pass that on to our product team. They do review all product requests directly, and that's how we develop our product. So I'll pass that feedback along. Thank you for sharing. While we don't have that in Excel, so unfortunately not the downloaded version, you should be able to track where it's coming from within Fathom itself. So if you're not sure how to do that, again, let me know in the Q&A, or again, reach out to kind of your main Fathom contact as well. One from Nicole here. Would you recommend using consolidations as a trick for classes from QBO? We need to report and do a forecast at the class and organizational level. Okay, really good question. There is a bit of a workaround to bring in consolidated classes, and that's to import them as standalone entities in Fathom. So there is a way to do that directly. We have quite a bit of information in our help center on that, but again, you can also reach out to support or your contact. To do the forecast, it won't be in there, unfortunately, so you won't have that breakdown. But again, we'll pass that on to our product team as a suggestion. So thank you for that. Okay, I'm running into a struggle with management reporting that differs from GAAP reporting. Is there a way that Fathom can be customized to create this view across 3 legal entities? I might need a bit more information, Nicholas. Sorry to answer that one. So if you do have an example report, pop that over to our support team and they'll be able to take a look and basically tell you whether that can be replicated in Fathom. There are some ways, for example, to create custom financial statements. You can build them out even row by row. So potentially that is something we'd be able to do if the information is within Fathom. That's a good question. One here, if a company is added to a group later, can they be added to an existing consolidated group? Also a really good question. So yes, you can manage the companies in your consolidated group at any point in time. If you're logged in and following along, I'll give you the steps quickly. You can go into the settings for the consolidated group under the first step. So the first step you're brought into, you'll be able to manage the group. And once you hit that, you'll actually see the same screen that you saw when you created the group itself. And then you can pull in additional entities if you want to, and you can remove old ones if they're no longer relevant. So yeah, you can definitely manage that group at any point in time. I have another one here. Is there a way to see the chart of account and headers of all companies in one report to identify differences? Also a really good question. I would say probably the best way to do that is actually within the consolidated chart of accounts, because it's basically going to list out all of them. So for example, if there's a name differentiation between different chart of account lines, Fathom's going to separate those out. A little hack, if you hit the eliminate button, it'll actually say source. So if you're not sure where that's come from, what source company it's come from, Fathom will tell you that way. That's probably the best way. Although if you wanted to download them to Excel and paste that side by side, you could also do that. But depends on, I guess, which system you'd prefer to do that in. Also a good question. I have quite a few. I will say I definitely won't get through them all, but please continue submitting them because it is really helpful for us and we'll make sure they get answered. But I have another one here. I am limited to selecting 60 KPIs. Can we increase that amount? Yeah, also a good question. So the KPIs that we're selecting as on or off, just so we're aware, that's what's showing in certain visuals in Fathom. So like that table that Tom had up, that KPI table with kind of the green ticks and red X's, that's going to show you the 60, but you're not limited to 60 KPIs within a Fathom report itself. So regardless of if they're selected on, you'll still be able to pull it into other visuals. It's just for the more specific Fathom centered visuals. So yeah, you should still be able to report on anything you want within your charts and graphs and things like that. I have another one here. Is there a way to identify intercompany out of balances? For example, eliminations that do not net to zero. Another good one. For a quick way to identify that, I would recommend popping into your consolidated group, going to the reports, and then again, if you're following along, on the left-hand side, you'll see there is a menu, and the very last option is Excel on the left. If you select that and then download that top report, which is your consolidated financial results, you'll be able to scroll to the bottom of that and get a balance check. So have a look at that one. It should give you what you're after. It'll tell you how much you're out of balance, and it also highlights in red or green whether you're in or out of balance. So it's quite handy as well, just from a visual perspective. But that is probably one of the most used reports for Fathom consolidation. So yeah, I'd highly recommend having a look there. I have quite a few in here. The next one is, where does Fathom post the currency translation adjustments in the converted ledger? Another good question. So you can post a multi-currency translation adjustment using what we call an Excel eliminations company. It's probably a little bit difficult to explain it in this format, but if you go to our help center, there is a really good article on it. So you can literally look up like currency translation adjustment and it will pop up. But if you need more help beyond that, again, just reach out because we can definitely do that. Okay, we have a group of 4 companies in Xero, but they don't maintain separate budgets. We only have one operating budget at the group level. How can we upload this consolidated group budget into Fathom? Also a good question. I'm probably going to give you a bit of a hack for that one. You can essentially upload the budget into one company in Fathom. So just pick whichever one has the chart of account items that you need. Upload the budget there, and then of course it will only be relevant at the group. So how the budget works is it's basically pulling all of them from your underlying companies into the consolidated group. If you have one budget and the rest are Xero, it's going to just pull in that one, which in your case would be accurate. So it is kind of a workaround. Hopefully that's making sense, but yeah, you should be able to still pull that in and use it as a comparative. You would just have to remember that when you're looking at it in the individual company, that it's not accurate because it's for the group. I think I'm just going to do one more. Sorry, I know there's just tons of questions here, but I am conscious of time. Are there plans to create simple fixed asset schedules and loan schedules to show debt schedules? Also a good question, and I'm just taking a stab here as probably for the forecast. You can actually set up schedules for depreciation and loans already. You'd have to navigate into the balance sheet to do that, but you should see basically 2 options to edit the balance sheet in the forecast. One of them is with a journal, so kind of standard accounting journal, and the other is called schedules. So navigate in, find that one. Again, if you can't find it, just type in schedules in our help center and there'll be tons of info on it. Again, sorry I don't have time for everyone, but again, we'll endeavor to answer them, or again, reach out to your point of contact or support, which that email's on the screen. And just lastly, for those of you who aren't already using Fathom, I'd absolutely love for you guys to take out a trial and actually play around with the consolidations tool. It really will save you some time and hopefully just reduce the amount of headaches that you have in the consolidations process. You can sign up for that free trial on our website, which you can see that URL there. We don't take your credit card information or anything, so you're truly free to play around and hopefully make the most out of it. But again, I just want to say thank you so much just for joining. I really appreciate you guys taking about an hour out of your day, and we look forward to hearing from you later. Thank you.